I had a conversation with my friend Dreanna about how she has decorated her home with items she has found through the secondhand sales markets. Curating artwork, pottery, and furniture is not her career, but it is how she has decorated her house with items she loves. Let's jump into this week's episode. Welcome to Garage Sales Unhinged.
Where the characters are as quirky as the finds.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Jake.
Join us as we dive into the wild world of garage sales, yard sales, estate sales, and anywhere secondhand sales are happening.
From bizarre bargains to hilarious haggles.
You won't believe the stories we've got lined up.
Let's get unhinged.
Dreanna, you have killer style and such an amazing house. Like, that's a lot of beautiful things that you have in your house of amazing artwork, funky style, aesthetic, but everything works together. So like how do you do this? How do you make it all look effortless and uber expensive, but maybe not have the price tag of uber expensive?
Well, I've been buying things secondhand all my life. My mom was one always in search of a bargain, and I'm kind of the same way. And I really have kind of an eclectic style. I don't know what I want until I see it, and then I'm like, this will work in my house, yes. And if it doesn't, maybe I can alter it in some way to make it work in my house. So, and I think part of it too was when we moved to this house, we moved from a 1,500 square foot ranch house to this place, which was about 3,800 square feet. And we just didn't have the money to, buy all the fancy bells and whistles. We couldn't just walk into rooms to go and buy the whole room. Not that I would do that anyway, but I really had a need to buy some things that would work in my house. So, the front room you walk into my house, that, and every single piece of furniture in there has been purchased secondhand. Much of it the first year or two we lived here. So I'm always looking for something that looks cool, that will match my house and my family's style, that is a better price, because why pay full price for something when you can find something really unique that nobody else has?
Well, how long have you been in this house?
About 20 years now.
Okay, so for our listeners, this doesn't happen overnight. This takes time. For homeowners, it is a curation process. Whenever you don't have the paycheck, the account balance to just go out and spend whatever you want in art galleries and furniture places. So just caution to the audience, this does takes time. But one of the things you said, Dreanna, which it's very much you think about the entire family's aesthetic, not just you. Because I am a horrible person and I think about what's my aesthetic, and I don't think about if my husband's going to like it, because I think if he had his way, all of our walls would just be beige and nothing on them. So you go into this with like, hey, I have an idea. I like this. And is it going to fit in with, my family's utilitarian need? Does it fit in with, is it going to work with the vibe that the family wants to have in this house? So if you find something and you're like, I really like this, do you ever have to filter it and go in, it's not going to work in the house, even though I really like it? Or, I know that my husband may not appreciate it as much. And so like, it's not going to maybe cause some animosity in the house. I don't know. People do weird things at secondhand sales. So like, how do you gauge that filter of what you're trying to build with a home aesthetic and decorating?
Well, it kind of works like this. I know my husband's vibe pretty well, but if I find a good deal and I like it, I will just buy it. But on occasion, I have brought things home where he's just says, no, no, I can't deal with this. An example of that was I bought this really awesome, and other people that see it in my office, which is where I take the things that he says, no, I don't want this in the house. I'll take it to my office. It's this wicker cow's head with horns. Like you would see it mounted on a wall like a real cow, but except it's all made out of wicker, and I think it's hilarious. And I thought it was sort of whimsical, so I loved it, and I think it's really cool. It's got little ears that stick up too, and yeah, Ted was like, "No, no, I can't look at that." So I took it up to the office, and people all the time they're like, "Wow, that cow head's so cool." So that's just how that works. So I'll take it into the office if it's something that he really can't live with, but I hit it most of the time, so it's good.
Well, it's funny because in my office, for anyone that does a video call with me, the wall that's behind me is this dark blue color. And I have a couple of rooms in my house that are painted dark blue, but on this wall, there's a lot of stuff on it. But everything on that wall, because I'm on video calls where I'm also seeing myself all the time, is that everything that's on there, I like. I don't care if anyone else likes. And I think that's the other thing of like, you have a space that if you purchase something and Ted is like, nope, not doing it. Your office is kind of like my home office. This is my creative space. And I get to put whatever I want in here, just like my husband's office is his creative space. And it's beige walls. So that's for different personalities and aesthetics. Um, but let's talk about some very cool pieces that you have found in secondhand sales. And for those that are listening, you can see these items on the Garage Sales Unhinged Instagram channel at Garage Sales Unhinged. So walk me through some of these items that you're sharing with us and the story behind how you acquired them.
Yeah, well, when I'm out looking for things, either at garage sales or now Facebook Marketplace, or I'm in an antique store in some little small town in Texas, wherever it might be, I'm just looking for things that I like. And I think I have a pretty good eye. So if I like it and it looks expensive and nice to me, I just get it. And then when I get home, I research it and figure out what is this thing I purchased. I don't know what this is, but I usually can figure it out. And so, yeah, one example of that when we were, I probably have had this thing for 18, 19 years, but there was this beautiful teak bowl that was just gorgeous. It's 2 foot long and it's sort of shaped like a canoe it's about 15 inches wide. And it's really beautiful. So I was at a garage sale and the woman there said, "Hey, this was, my dad from my father-in-law. He liked wood objects, artistic objects. They were all $5." So I bought this bowl for $5 and I loved it. It's mid-century modern, really pretty, perfect shape. I get it home and I start digging. And at that time when I bought it, it's a Dansk teak bowl from the 1950s, truly mid-century. And by one of their designers, and I'm probably going to kill this on the pronunciation, but Jans Kiesgaard is the guy who designed this bowl. And at that time, it was
That sounded good to me. I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna go with what you said.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with too. But it's one that was made in the 1950s, and at that time it was worth about $250, $300. And I'm like, wow, I got a really good high quality piece. And as you know, mid-century modern is now hotter than ever. I mean, it's just insane the prices people command for those types of things. Down the design district in Dallas, there's whole stores that are just mid-century modern things. And now the value on that bowl is $500 to $700.
That's
And of course,
fantastic.
yeah, and I just love it. So I'm like, I'm going to keep this thing forever. And then hopefully one of my kids who also, we kind of like the same aesthetic, hopefully one of them will want it. But it's really nice.
Are you planning a garage sale, yard sale, or estate sale and need some help? Look no further than Garage Sale Supply. They provide top-notch resources and expert advice to help you host the perfect sale. From pricing tips to promotional strategies, they've got you covered. Visit GarageSaleSupply.com and make your next sale a success.
One of the other cool things I picked up at a garage sale was this piece of art that looked to me like it was from Mexico or South America. I did recognize in it like the god Quetzalcoatl, and it was about 2 foot by 2 foot, and it was beautifully framed. And I could tell behind the glass that it was actually individual yarn that had been glued in these very intricate,
Oh,
super colorful patterns. Beautiful.
this,
And
so I'm looking at it, and for our listeners, this is one of those things where like, so it's kind of like the mid-century modern piece. There's a lot of reproductions of those items, but what you have is an original from that time period, which is probably means it's going to last forever. And then this piece of artwork, it does look like it could be antique. It also could be look like it just was made yesterday and you bought it in an art gallery because it's bright, vivid colors. And whenever I first saw this, I thought it was a painting, but this is actually textile.
yes, yeah, it's textiles. And so, whoever bought it, put it behind glass, which is probably a smart move because those are a little harder to clean being textiles. But I paid $25 for it, which is big bucks for me at a garage sale back at that time. But I love color. I love bold designs. And this one, I knew it was Quetzalcoatl and these different little lizard gods. And it just was look at it as a neat story on this piece of art. So I just bought it and I brought it home and started Googling around, trying to figure it out. And it turns out what it is, it's Huichol Indian yarn art, which is, I think from southern Mexico. And these things command a pretty good price. The size that I have, if I don't know the age of mine, but I know it's at least about 18 years old. And I think the people I was talking to said it was probably at least 10 years old, so probably 30 years old or so. And I know ones from the 70s can be up to $900 for a piece this size, but they start at around 250 and just kind of depends on if you can figure out who the artist is, which I don't know. But it's just I liked it, so that's why I bought it. But it is a valuable piece. I always say, I can walk into a shoe store and pick a pair of shoes I really want, and chances are it might be the most expensive pair of shoes in the store. I just have that skill. I don't know. So
You
I have
you
a
and
good
I are
eye
the
for.
you and I are the same. I can look at a catalog and I'll find like one bag or one item and I'm like, I really like that thing. And I go to look at the price and I'm click, of course I like that thing. Why is it out of my price range? But you do have an eye for style and like, and also like kudos for an eye for a bargain too. Cause I mean, again, you said whenever you brought this, it was $25. Like, oh, that's really stretching the budget you had. Um, and also to our listeners, Dreanna's not out there to try to buy these things to resell. She's buying things that she likes and is putting in her home and is going to enjoy. It just so happens that she's buying things that, oh, wow, other people appreciate it too. So that's important. And I want to go back to something you said. Putting something behind glass that is a textile, you're right. It is hard to keep dust off of textiles because you can't just like wash it down. I have, and I know our listeners are going to be so jealous. I have a velvet painting that hangs in my living room, and I inherited it from my grandparents. And the velvet painting is not expensive. Like velvet paintings don't have a lot of value to them, but it's really hard to keep clean because velvet attracts dust. And through the power of the internet search, if you ever need to clean a velvet painting, here's what you need to do. You get a pantyhose, put it over the tube of your vacuum, and on the back side of the velvet painting, you go over it with that pantyhose on the tube of the vacuum and you vacuum the back of the velvet painting. And that helps remove dust, smells, particles without it actually impacting the color of the paint on the front side. So, tidbit that I found out about whenever I inherited it because my grandparents were smokers and I didn't want to have a velvet painting that smelled like cigarette smoke in my house. But I did want to have the velvet painting because it reminds me of my grandparents. But that was a way to clean it. So for anyone else that is a velvet painting aficionado, there you go.
Hey, that's good advice. That's good advice. So I'm going to move on to another item that I sent you a picture of, which is a light fixture. When we moved into our house, our front room, which is a really sort of grand room, it's 2 stories tall. Man, it had the ugliest 1980s light fixture. It was beveled glass with some rose colored glass in there. It just, I never liked it. We walked in and when we were seeing this house and I said, that has got to go. Well, it took me several years to find just the right thing, but I was at an antique store with a friend and I saw this light fixture and I knew it worked because they had it all plugged in so I could see that it actually was still functioning, but it was just gorgeous and perfect for that room. It's probably about 3 foot across, about 1.5 feet tall. It's sort of a drum shape, sort of shade out of metal, and the metal's cut in a really neat pattern. And then on the inside, it's got spokes and some lights that light it up from the inside. But I thought it was really awesome. So I said, hey, how much is this? So I think I paid $225 for it. And it had a tag on it as if it were new and had never been used. And when I got it down and I got it in the car, that tag said it was $1,595.
Oh my gosh.
They may not have got that, but that might have been like the full retail. But I just thought it was great for my space, and it's a good price for a really large fixture for a big room. So I was really happy about that purchase, and I still love it. And I'm so glad I got rid of that ugly fixture that we did have.
Well,
I hated that one.
and this front room that we're talking about, it has floor to ceiling windows. It's a beautiful statement piece to the house. People can see it from the road as they're driving by. And I love this light fixture too, because it is one of those things, it adds an element of, I'm going to say whimsy, but also like gives people like an entrance into the vibe that they're about to walk into in your house. This front room also has a bunch of other artwork in there as well. Um, but for I also like to buy interesting light fixtures for my house, and they ain't cheap. And so the fact that you got this piece for $225, a steal. Like that is a bargain, especially a statement piece. You ain't gonna find that at a Home Depot or a Lowe's. It's not at a big box store. This is a light fixture that's a piece of art, and it's very cool.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like it elsewhere. So it's not a real common type of fixture, which also, pleases me and makes me happy as well. So that's really cool.
Did you have to change the wiring on it to install it?
It's suspended, like 2 stories up, and, we did a lot of renovations about 5, 6 years ago, and part of that was putting in a lot of can lights in our house and replacing a lot of our major light fixtures, so we just had them do it because, yeah, it's in the middle of the room and it's way up there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what they did, but it works and then everything's fine. So they got it all wired up and plugged in. So that's good because yeah, there's certain things we don't mess with in our houses. It's just too high up and we don't want to do that. So
I feel you on that one.
yeah, but with our renovation, one of the other things that happened is we took a wall out in our kitchen and we put in a really large island. And so I needed a whole bunch of bar stools, and it's a long island. It's 11.5 foot long. And I also wanted to have a cohesive feel for the room. I've got some DIY skills, growing up with my mom who could do everything. And so I decided all the chairs that we had in our living area, in our breakfast room, which is attached to the kitchen, it's all open, and then that bar with existing bar stools, I wanted them all to have the same fabric for the seats because I thought that would probably make it look more custom in the house and everything. And so I started looking on Facebook Marketplace, and I found someone selling 5 high chairs with a round table top for $40. And I just was looking for the shape of the chairs because I know I wanted to paint them a really beautiful bold blue, and pick some fabric to match that. And that fabric was going to be used on the rest of my chairs in my dining area and my other 2 existing bar stools. But yeah, I got it for that price and I got them home. And the chairs were a little too high. So I think 2.5 or 3 inches had to be cut off the bottom. So I set Mr. Belden on that, and he took care of that for me and got them all fixed back up so they had the little taps in the bottom. And then I painted those chairs, which boy was a real hassle. Because they have a back and it's just a lot more detail than I thought. But they're awesome chairs. So after 4 coats of blue paint, they finally looked awesome, and I got my fabric on there, and I had 2 existing, just pretty plain bar stools. I painted the same color, used the same fabric on those, and all the chairs at my breakfast room table. And I think they turned out great. And I mean, I went to a store and looked at bar stools, but for just something real simple and not very great quality, $70, $80 a piece, I didn't like them. This is a really substantial chair that swivels, very, very well built, really great cushion on it. So I feel like I got something that I was able to buy and customize and make it into something that was unique to our house. And I really enjoy those. And I like seeing all the same pattern on everything.
And I hadn't even thought about because I've been in the same situation. I need to get bar stools, and you're right. You go to even places where you think you're getting a bargain. I, it, I mean, to match the same color of the other ones, you still have to paint it. So you're out the cost of paint plus the cost of this thing that you bought at a big box store. There's a lot more expense to it. But I never thought about cutting off the bottom of the chair to make sure it's the right height for everything else. And I don't know why, but I'm like, that's such a genius move. It's also just common sense, Julie. Uh, but yeah, you cut off the bottom, send it down a little bit, add in the bottom tacks, and no one knows the difference. And now that I'm looking at 'em going, "Oh, yeah, I know in my mind's eye, I know the exact height of this stool before Ted cut it down." I'm going, "Yeah, that totally makes sense now." And it's you have beautiful furniture in your house, but having the same fabric on all of them connects everything, so you don't even realize it doesn't stand out that as a separate piece. It just looks like it's part of the set.
Exactly, exactly, and saved a lot of money, and to me, it's not really saving the money, it's just having something that's unique, that, maybe not everybody else has, so I like that as well, so that's cool. And the other types of things I like buying is, me, I like to have a lot of big parties, and, Some people, when they do that, go to paper plates, which I think is awesome. That's a good strategy. But I like to, for the most part, use my own dishes. And I will even get out. I'm like, I'm not going to put a bag out. I'm going to put something from the bag in a dish, that kind of thing. And so, one of the things that we had an issue with for a while is we had one platter in the house for like carving meat. And it was my husband's from before we got married and it had a big old chip in it. And I wanted something really pretty, but I wasn't sure what. But I kind of been looking every time I go into a antique store or a thrift store. I was at a garage sale. I'd always say, "What do they got here? You know, what's here?" No, no, I was looking for something special. And then I was at a friend's house, and they had a whole wall they set up in their breakfast room with these beautiful trays for entertaining, beautiful ceramics. And I'm like, "What are those?" And they were Williams Sonoma, of course. So of course they were beautiful. And so that started me looking for some Williams Sonoma platters. And I probably looked for, I don't know, 2 years, because even the used ones, maybe 150 or 200. So I was on Facebook Marketplace one day and I saw someone that had two platters for $100. And so I'm like, okay, that's a really good deal. And these are giant. I mean, the larger one's 24 inches long and the smaller one is 19 inches long. So they're really good size. So I contacted the lady that had them and said, "Hey, can I pick these up today?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And she said, "I also have a bowl that matched it, 15 inches across." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how much?" "Yeah, I want it. How much?" She's like, $30 more. So I got that one for $30. And these are all, very collectible. I think Williams Sonoma's ceramics, keep their value over time. So I think right now these things, they're running anywhere from 175 to 250 for each platter, and a bowl like that's probably about 110, $130. But I just love them because they're really cool. They're nice, good quality, and I got a good deal on them, so I was happy about that.
Well, and I mean, I know these platters because you have them out. Well, I'm usually over at your house for gatherings, and you have everything out prepped and ready to go for the party. But these are beautiful pieces, and the fact that this individual was selling them, and whether she was downsizing or she was, making room for other things, or she just wasn't finding use out of them, I'm sure someone at Williams Sonoma was like, "We would have bought those back and resold them at a higher amount." But they're beautiful pieces and they're so versatile because we don't think about, whenever we're hosting parties, we don't think about the size of platters that we need 6 months earlier whenever we're out shopping and looking for stuff. So having something that is, one, oversized, two, durable, three, just gorgeous pieces, it does add an extra level to hosting people in a gathering because it does bring some festivity to it. But also, like, again, a round of applause, Dreanna. These are beautiful pieces. And the picture you sent me of the bowl makes it look like you have it in an art gallery because it's on this white box. And I was like, yeah, I could see it in an art gallery. It could happen.
Yeah, well, we're enjoying them, so I think they're really nice. And another thing I bought like that too is I don't know, I haven't done it lately, but for quite a while I'd go on Facebook Marketplace and you see something you just couldn't live without. And one of those times was another pottery purchase. I love those Williams Sonoma. I think they had those made in Portugal as part of the Portuguese line. But these other ceramics that I found are this brand called Val de Sol. And I love them because they're very modern looking. It was 9 pieces of different shapes and dimensions. And they're very bold blue with white, and every single piece is a different pattern, but they all kind of oddly go together. And it really fits our aesthetic and our existing plates that we use, the colors and that type of thing. So all 9 of those pieces, $65. So I met the lady, got the things. And then when I was looking them up, when I got at the time that I got them a couple years ago, just one piece of that pottery would be like 60, 70, $80.
Oh my
And
God.
I had 9 pieces of it. And I just went to look before we got together for this talk, and there's not even a single piece of that particular pattern anywhere for sale right now. So I don't know what's up with that, but I assume that means maybe it's more desirable, I'm hoping. But I just love them. I think they look great with my plates and our stuff, and they're great for entertainment or taking, something to a party. I just used them last past weekend. I took my my dish to a potluck in one of my bowls that I have from that set. So I really am happy with that. But I'm full up on pottery. I don't need to look at any more. No, stop.
Well,
I've got more than any hostess needs, I think. So I think
well,
that's just fine.
also kudos to you because you actually use these things. Like for me, I'm like, oh no, this doesn't leave the house. I'm gonna protect it. And I do have pieces that I've bought overseas that I really like, and I use it for hosting events at our house. But for me to even think about taking it outside of my house, outside of the safety and the comfort of if it breaks, it's in my house, and then trying to like transport it in my car and then trying to like go into someone else's house. I don't have the confidence in myself to keep nice things nice. So, but these pieces, I would say too, the blue and the white patterns, and it kind of has like this terracotta edge to it or browner edge to it. It is the aesthetic of your home because you have blue and white accents that are predominant throughout definitely the main floor of the house, but then also beautiful warm wood floors, white walls, and then artwork everywhere. So again, for those interior designers that are listening or want to be interior designers, um, the way that you have decorated your house, it incorporates bold and clean lines, but with a lot of warmth and comfort. So you don't walk in. I never feel like I'm in an art gallery at your house. I feel like I'm at your house and I can appreciate things and feel comfortable and I can touch stuff and I'm not going to get yelled at for touching the pretty things.
Yeah, and I've always called our aesthetic contemporary cheerful because I like bright colors. I want it to be homely and homey and just a cozy place to be. And I've got a 7-year-old grandson who'll be 7 next month, and he's been around all of our things all these years. And I just want to have the feeling that if I never put anything up. I have little ceramic knickknacks that I've picked up here and there, and window seals that are down low at his level. I'm like, if he picks it up and something happens, well, I'll just find another little knickknack. It's no big deal. And we haven't had too many problems with that, thank goodness. I was gonna say, I haven't done it in a long time, but a long time ago when I first got married, like the first year or two of our marriage, I did sell a lot of things on eBay. I did like a small side business where I was just selling a few things. I teased my husband that it paid for our trip to Europe that we took a couple months after I started because I think it cleared maybe 2 grand or something. But anyhow, I always went to garage sales quite often with my mom back then. And I just, knew about eBay and decided I would start trying to figure out what I could sell and what was reasonable. And so kind of where the niche that I fell into for the most part is I would buy other things, but I stayed away from glassware or ceramics because I think it's just challenging and more expensive to ship those types of things. And then they could break. And I didn't want to get into that too much. But I really got into books. I'm a librarian now, and I've always had a love of books. And so it just kind of fit for me. And so I did some research and I figured out how I could tell looking at a book if it was a first edition or not. And so I was looking basically for first editions, things that I thought might be of interest. And mind you, this is all before the age that we are in now, where you have basically a computer in your pocket that you can whip out and look up the value of anything on the fly. That was like my fantasy back then. Oh, I wish I could just be home on my computer and actually look something up to see if it's worthwhile. Because you were just kind of guessing. But I paid 25, 50 cents, maybe a buck for each of these things when I would buy them. And then just would turn them around as a first edition. And there's a lot of people out there that like to collect first editions. Anything that was signed by the author, I would pick up. And you can find a lot of things like that. And some examples, one thing I found was this 1970s, and I can't recall the exact title, but it was a book about Superman from the 1970s. And it was paperback. It wasn't that big, maybe 100, 150 pages. So I bought it for a quarter and I posted it on eBay. And I sold that sucker for, I think, like $128, which is one
Wow.
of my top selling items. Mostly I would buy books for, 50 cents or $1, and maybe someone buys it for 12, 25 bucks, and then you add on your shipping. But another thing that I sold at a huge profit is, there's a really famous Japanese designer who I think is still really popular, Issey Miyake. And I had some Vogue patterns of Issey Miyake's that I had on hand. And I noticed that the patterns, like those high-end Vogue patterns that are no longer in print, especially those Issey Miyake ones, were expensive. So I had two of them, and I probably paid like $4 for them at the fabric store or whatever at the time. But those sold for 65 or $70 each.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, vintage patterns that are the right pattern, that's something that's really unusual. People will pay really good money for that. But that was fun, but that's a lot of work. It is truly like a part-time job,
Mhm.
that to do that type of thing, because you're always, I remember, I mean, every week, or once or twice a week, I'd be up at the post office with a big old set of packages I had to mail out. And it's just, I decided, once I got more settled into my career, that it just wasn't something that I had time for anymore. But it was a lot of fun, and it's nice when you find those things that you're like, yes, eureka,
Well,
I made a good profit on this one. And
where did you
Mhm.
find those types of, like, specifically for the books, where did you find those? Was it mainly at estate sales? Was it mainly at garage sales, or like, hey, it was just luck of the draw, wherever I was, I happened to stumble across it?
Yeah, a little bit of all those things, but I'd say predominantly garage sales. So you just pull up and they've got books, and it might be it's stuff that, nobody would be interested in, but um, I just would look through and see what was there. And if it was something I thought might have value, I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna, take this home and see if I can figure out if this is something that I can sell or not. So and every once in a while I got something that I'm like, oh, this is not even worth putting online. It's like, let me recycle this back to a thrift store.
Well,
Just
especially
some-
if your investment is a dollar, or around a dollar, uh, that's kind of a nice little, like, if you're going to put a dollar in the penny slots, you're probably better off putting a dollar at a garage sale and trying to resell that book or that item for a little bit more than that. I think your looks probably better than going to the casino and hoping for the best.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy sometimes out there, but yeah, I've always just had a big love for it. It's fun. It's funny, you walk into someone's garage sale or estate sale and they're like, "Oh, you looking for something in particular?" "Well, no, I'm not, but I'll know it if I see it," is my usual response, because I'm like, "I don't know what I want. What do you have that's really cool and unique?"
Yeah, it's funny because I've had people, again, those hosts that say, "Hey, what can I help you find?" I'm going, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't I just happen to, like, be drawn into your sale, and we're gonna say it's the luck of the draw of going, I don't know if I need something, but whenever I see it, I'll know. So, yeah, it's one of those things, like, I appreciate the host being hospitable and wanting to help out. Again, I also know people go in going, "Yeah, I'm looking for a shovel," or "I'm looking for this type of Tupperware," or something like that, or, like, Purex, and, um, so, those times it's helpful, but for the most part, whenever I'm out on the weekend going to estate sales, yard sales, I just happen to stumble in. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Exactly. And that reminds me of a story. A couple years ago, I had a chance to meet, Meredith Molly, who, is a young lady who, at that time was at Heritage Auctions as one of their, senior consignment advisors, but she was a Christie's trained appraiser, and she worked for Christie's for a few years. And her parents, I think, were antique dealers, and she told us a story that, her parents, when she was a little kid, they'd pull up to an antique store or a thrift store, and her parents would say, "Okay, Meredith, we're gonna go in here, and there's a game we're playing, and there's something in there that is not very expensive, but it's worth a lot of money, and we're trying to find that thing." And so just that, where that's where she got that her passion for really understanding antiques and collectibles and that type of thing. And I think that passes along to people, or just everyday people like you and I, that just want to go someplace and find something that we love. And it's just that passion for finding something that's different and unique, and sometimes a good bargain that you actually end up with something pretty valuable in the
You
in
know,
the
it's such an Indiana Jones, scenario of, like, we know there's something important here, but we don't know what it is yet. Kudos to her parents of, like, they made it into a game, and then that game turned into her passion, her career going forward. Um, it's fun. Like, I mean, to what you have done, it is trying to find that treasure in the middle of the haystack. And sometimes you have to dig for it. It also takes years to cultivate the style, the stuff that you like. And also, I mean, you go to a garage sale, you go to someone's estate sale, they don't have multiples of the thing. If you see a lamp that is in yellow, but you really want it in blue, they don't have it. Like it's a one-time thing. And I think a lot of times, um, people that are out shopping, they think of, well, if they don't have that thing that I'm looking for in the color or the size, then I can't get it. And I think to your point earlier with the stools of like, no, you can actually get things and alter it to how it fits your style. And then you have a bargain, you have a statement piece, you have a one of one, and it's uniquely you and give some life into your space. And it's very cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like those platters that I got, I was looking for platters probably 3 or 4 years because I wasn't looking like I have to have it right now. It usually wasn't a utilitarian decision. I was looking for the right thing, and I was willing to wait to find the right thing at the right price for what I thought I wanted. So I think it is important to say, hey, you just, and I love the word you're using, curation, because that is what we do. I mean, sometimes I'm pretty full of things in the house. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a maximalist or anything, so I definitely am not, but I do have a lot of different types of decor items, but sometimes I buy something new now and I'm pretty chock full up. So I think, okay, what am I getting rid of? Because I don't need to stick it more things on that shelf. I just need to take something down and recycle it to the thrift store, so I can put up the new thing that I think is more beautiful. So
Yeah. I also like I take plenty of things to the thrift store. I also, especially furniture, I post things on Facebook Marketplace like no one's business. And again, you brought up eBay earlier. eBay is a great place for people that if you have a collectible, don't post it on Facebook Marketplace. First, post it on eBay to see if collectors out there will bid on it and actually you get a good value out of it. So, yeah, it's such a treasure hunt out there in the secondhand space.
it is, and I think because of technology, the whole landscape's been transformed truly because it's not just eBay. I mean, there's OfferUp and all these other platforms, specialty platforms for clothing or for antiques, and it's kind of like the golden age. So if you are a collector looking for something very unusual, for the first time ever, you really have an opportunity to truly search nationally for that thing versus going into your, local couple of antique stores. So I find that exciting, and it's like, another good benefit. One of the good benefits of technology is just making it easier for people to find their passions and the things that they love.
A big round of applause for Dreanna on sharing her experience treasure hunting, home decor, and secondhand bargains. If you have a story you want to share on the podcast, reach out to us at garagesalesunhinged@gmail.com or through our Instagram at garagesalesunhinged. I appreciate you listening. Bye.